In recent years, Chinese men have been spending more and more on marriage. In particular, men are expected to give high bride prices to the bride and her family before marriage, in addition to taking on the costs of buying a house and a car. This has become a norm, and women have gradually come to view these contributions as a given. The following video presents an extreme example. My requirements are quite simple. First, I need $140,000 as a bride price for the marriage. Additionally, I would like the groom to buy 3 houses because I have 3 children, so each child can have their own house. Secondly, I need $6,900 per month for living expenses because I need to take care of my 3 children and can't work outside. This money is needed for daily family expenses. Furthermore, if the children don't want to call you dad, I hope you can respect their wishes and not force them. Also, I don't plan to have any more children. I've already had 3 and don't want my body to become overweight due to excessive childbirth. My requirements aren't that high, and you get 3 children for free, don't you? That's a pretty good deal, isn't it? My boyfriend and I were ready to get married, and he agreed to provide $23,000 as the bride price. Initially, everything went smoothly, but then my mom wasn't satisfied. She felt raising me wasn't easy and thought that the bride price was too cheap. She demanded that when my boyfriend came to pick me up, he had to bring an additional $8,300 as a supplement to the bride price. Otherwise, my mom wouldn't let me get in his car. At the time, my boyfriend didn't object, but on the wedding day, all my relatives and friends arrived early, waiting from the morning until noon. My boyfriend and the wedding convoy didn't show up. I was very anxious, so I kept calling him from noon to night, and finally he answered. Unexpectedly, he said he and his parents were on vacation in Hainan and had just landed. I was shocked and said, "Today is our wedding day, how can you not come? All our relatives and friends are waiting for you. How embarrassing." He replied coldly, "Wasn't it you who made the joke first? You said if I didn't bring you $8,300, your mom wouldn't let you get in the car. If I come to pick you up and you don't get in, won't that make me look ridiculous?" I tried to explain. My mom's request to add $8,300 as a bride price was just a test. She would be very upset if I got married and left home. You agreed at the time and didn't say it was impossible, and we don't actually need that money. Now I can let it go and we can still get married tomorrow, right? But he replied, "Forget it, I don't want to get married anymore. I plan to take the wedding money and travel with my parents instead." Hearing those words, I broke down. I can't believe I ended up with such an irresponsible man. Now my relatives and friends all know about it. I'm too embarrassed to face anyone. What should I do, friends? I'm 38 years old this year, and if you want to marry me, the bride price I require is $110,000. If we wait until next year, the price will go up to $140,000. Then wait another 10 years. By the time you're 48, you can ask for $250,000. The older you get, the more expensive the bride price becomes, but also no one will marry you then. Honestly, if I were to marry you, I'd give you at most $1 as a bride price.
提到高彩礼啊，我们首先想到的肯定是
When it comes to expensive bride prices, many people immediately think of Jiangxi. In that region, many young people aren't unwilling to marry, but simply can't afford the high costs of marriage. Consider what a bride price of $69,000 means for an average family. It would leave the couple burdened with debt after the wedding. Some people are forced to spend all their savings on paying the bride price, even taking on heavy debts. In such cases, what is the meaning of marriage? Marriage is supposed to make life happier, but if it becomes the beginning of misery, then what is the point of such a marriage? If I encountered a woman demanding such a high bride price, I'd rather stay single for life. Honestly, bride price customs exist in many places across the country, but the amounts in Jiangxi are ridiculously high. For families demanding unreasonably high bride prices, how is this any different from selling your daughter? Some say that the bride price is a way to test the groom's sincerity about marriage, but what kind of sincerity is worth $69,000? How many years would it take an average family to earn that much? Many people are confused by popular online videos, believing that everyone now earns millions annually and drives Ferraris. In reality, an ordinary family might not save $69,000 even in a lifetime. In some rural areas of Henan, the cost of marriage even reaches RMB 1 million. According to Zhang Huan, a lecturer at Central South University for Nationalities, during his research in rural Henan, he found that for an average farmer's family, it cost an average of $137,600 for their son to get married. A netizen lamented, Do you know how much it costs to marry a wife and her nan? As the end of the year approaches, many young people who have been working outside return home to prepare for a blind date. For some families, this, however, means the beginning of a heavy burden.
知道在我们河南娶个媳妇要多少彩礼吗？
I take my own experience as an example. My husband and I were in a love marriage and I was only 16 at the time. Both of our families were from rural backgrounds. My husband has two brothers and he is the second eldest. His family's economic situation wasn't very good and my parents initially opposed the marriage. But we were determined to be together and eventually my parents were moved by our love and agreed. When I got married, my mother-in-law gave me a dowry of $1,513 even though my family wasn't doing well financially and she wanted me to have a better life. Why does it cost so much to get married nowadays? Besides the bride price, there are also demands for the groom to buy a house and a car, leading to significant expenses. In the county, the average price per square meter for a house is around $825. Buying a house can easily cost at least $96,300. As for cars, even the cheapest ones cost around $13,800. Additionally, there are costs for house decoration, wedding photos, wedding car, and banquet expenses, etc. A wedding can cost at least $137,600. For an average family, shouldering such a cost is an enormous burden. The high bride prices have also led to numerous dramatic incidents. For example, on October 4th this year, in a wedding in Shenyang, Henan, the couple originally agreed on a bride price of $25,900. However, on the wedding day, the bride's brother and sister-in-law suddenly and temporarily demanded an additional $24,800, leading to a tense standoff between the two families and their relatives. In the face of the interrupted wedding and the tense atmosphere, the bride's emotions broke down and she tried to jump out of the window twice. The groom tried to flee with the bride, but he was stopped by the bride's family. Her brother even lay down under the groom's car to prevent them from driving away, causing complete chaos at the scene. Especially in rural families, parents need to trade their daughter's marriage to help their son get married. The bride price received for marrying off a daughter becomes the cost needed for their son's wedding. For example, in Changchu, Henan, a man paid a bride price of $37,200 and got engaged to a woman. After the engagement, the man continued to work outside the home and the couple chatted every day via cell phone. However, unexpectedly, just a few days later, the fiancée took her own life for reasons unknown. This incident sparked discussions among netizens, raising concerns that the pressure from the family might have led the woman to take her own life. Was it because her parents pushed her too hard? It could also be that the woman didn't want to marry the man, but was forced to compromise because her family needed a bride price, ultimately leading her to choose to end her own life. Many netizens believe that the high cost of marriage in rural areas is primarily due to the gender imbalance. With more men than women, males are at a disadvantage in the marriage market, which dries up dowry amounts, leaving many families heavily in debt. Some men who have participated in blind dates express that both the bride's and groom's families should contribute equally to the wedding expenses to make it fair. If the bride can't do something herself, she shouldn't ask me to do it either. We should be equal. For example, I can contribute $26,000 as part of the marriage expenses, but this money isn't for her family, it's to invest in our new family. Similarly, she should also contribute $26,000 to the family. After marriage, we'll have 2 children, with each child taking one of our last names. That would be the fairest arrangement. Actually, the incomes of boys and girls are generally about the same. Both graduate from school and start working, so why can girls spend their earnings on food, entertainment, and cosmetics, while boys have to work hard to save money for a house and a car? This is fundamentally unfair. Netizens have engaged in heated discussions about this perspective. Some agree with the view, arguing that marriage should be based on equality, with both parties sharing responsibilities rather than one side being forced to make sacrifices. Others question this approach, pointing out that while it appears fair, it might be difficult for both parents to accept, especially in rural areas where traditional beliefs are deeply rooted. This also raises the question, is the bride price considered joint property of the couple after marriage?
姐妹们，如果结婚的时候对方跟你说，
When a groom tells you, I paid this much as a bride price, so your family should also pay the same amount, it means that he views all of this money as shared marital property. After marriage, he also has the right to use this money. This is incorrect. Legally speaking, whether it's the bride price or money given by the bride's parents before marriage, it belongs to the bride. The bride price is a gift given with the intention of marriage. This money is entirely under the bride's control, and the groom has no right to interfere. If it's money given by the bride's parents before marriage, it has no relation to the groom whatsoever. Of course, there are currently cases where marriage is used as a scam to deceive the groom into paying a bride price, which is criminal behavior and a separate issue entirely. This lawyer believes that perhaps by abolishing the bride price system, it could break some women's fantasies of changing their lives through marriage, forcing them to achieve economic independence and social status. This change could also help women avoid hasty marriages driven by age anxiety. When women are pressured into marriage and childbirth by their families without sufficient psychological and economic preparation, it can lead to women interrupting their careers to raise children. This not only causes them to miss out on development opportunities, but also puts them under multiple pressures physically, mentally, and financially.